All right, ready to dive deep into regenerative agriculture. Your sources got me really intrigued, especially Chapter 5, Regenerative Agriculture and Sustainability. It's like way more than just being eco-friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just about like sustaining, it's about actively restoring and improving, the health of ecosystems. And it's really amazing how this approach can impact everything from climate change to food security.
Exactly. So maybe let's start with subchapter 5.1, impact on climate change. It talks about carbon sequestration. And honestly, I'm kind of fuzzy on how that actually works, with agriculture.
Okay, so think of it like this. Plants, they absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere as they grow.
Right.
Now, in conventional farming, a lot of that carbon kind of gets released back into the atmosphere through tilling and stuff. But with regenerative agriculture, we focus on building healthy soil, and that acts like a giant carbon sink, storing that carbon underground.
So instead of releasing carbon, you're saying, regenerative agriculture actually pulls it out and stores it.
Exactly. Like techniques like no-till farming, cover cropping, and diverse crop rotations, all that contributes to building that healthy soil structure.
That's amazing. But how much carbon can soil actually store? I mean, is there a limit?
That's a really good question, and scientists are still researching that. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's definitely a theoretical limit, but we're far from reaching it. What's really interesting is that regenerative agriculture not only helps mitigate climate change, but also makes farms more resilient to the effects of climate change.
Oh, how so?
Well, healthy soil is much better at retaining water, which means farms can better withstand, droughts. It also improves drainage, or reduces the risk of flooding. And diverse crop rotations, they help prevent, pest outbreaks, which can become more severe with climate change. So it's kind of win-win on multiple fronts.
I'm starting to see why people are so excited about this. It seems like it addresses so many issues at once. But what about the actual food? Does subchapter 5.2 food security and nutrition cover that?
Absolutely. Remember how we mentioned healthy soil?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't just store carbon, it also produces healthier, more nutrient-rich crops.
So we're talking about like more vitamins and minerals. That's incredible. But does that translate to higher yields?
Often, yes. Healthy soil provides the optimal conditions for plant growth, right? So that leads to increased yields in many cases. And because regenerative practices reduce that reliance on expensive chemical inputs like fertilizers and pesticides, it becomes a more accessible and sustainable model for farmers, especially smallholder farmers in developing countries.
That makes sense. So by empowering farmers with these practices, we can contribute to global food security, not just environmental sustainability.
Exactly. And there's another layer to this. Remember the Victory Garden campaign in Cambodia from your sources?
Right.
It's a great example of how regenerative agriculture can really empower communities to take control of their own food production.
Right. Teaching people to grow their own food using these methods can be so transformative, especially in regions facing food insecurity.
Absolutely. And it's not just about quantity, but quality too. By focusing on soil health and biodiversity, regenerative agriculture can produce food that's not only more abundant, but also more nutritious and flavorful.
Okay, I'm officially on board with this regenerative agriculture thing. It sounds almost too good to be true.
Well, there are definitely challenges, but the potential is huge. And this brings us to that final subchapter, subchapter 5.3, future directions and innovations. This is where things get really exciting.
I'm all ears. What kind of innovations are we talking about?
Well, we're seeing incredible advancements in technology and practices. Think precision irrigation systems deliver water only where it's needed, right? Reducing waste and improving efficiency. There's also the use of drones for monitoring crop health.
Wow.
Identifying pests early on, and even applying targeted treatment.
Wow, high-tech farming. It's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
But how does that tie into the whole, regenerative approach?
These technologies, they help us to really optimize resource use, minimize our environmental footprint, and ultimately enhance the sustainability of these regenerative practices. They're tools that can empower farmers to make even more informed decisions, right, and manage their land with greater precision.
So it's not like rejecting technology, but using it to support those ecological principles. That's a really interesting balance.
Exactly. And then there's the fascinating world of blockchain technology being used to track food from farm to table, providing that transparency and traceability for consumers.
That's right. I remember reading about that. It seems like blockchain could play a huge role in verifying the authenticity and sustainability of these regenerative products.
Absolutely. Consumers are becoming more and more aware of, where their food comes from and how it's produced. And blockchain offers a way to build trust, right, and connect those consumers directly with farmers who are committed to these practices.
It feels like we're on the cusp of a real revolution in agriculture, blending ancient wisdom with cutting edge technology. But are there any specific examples of companies or organizations leading the charge in this regenerative movement?
There are so many inspiring stories out there. You mentioned Starbucks earlier, and their partnership with EcoMills is a great example of a large company making that commitment to sourcing sustainably. These mills are not only focused on reducing their environmental impact, but also actively contributing to research on soil health and regenerative practices.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's encouraging to see those kinds of collaborations happening. Any other examples that stand out?
Well, the Savory Institute is doing phenomenal work around the world. They've developed a holistic management framework that's being used to restore degraded land and revitalize communities. They've had incredible success in places like Zimbabwe, for example,
Yeah.
where they've reversed desertification and brought life back to these barren landscapes.
That's remarkable. It's inspiring to see that kind of transformation happening on a large scale. It really shows the power of these regenerative principles to heal the planet.
And there's this growing buzz around carbon farming, where farmers could potentially get paid for sequestering carbon in their soil. It's an exciting concept that could incentivize even wider adoption of regenerative practices.
So instead of just focusing on the food they produce, farmers could also be rewarded for their contribution to combating climate change. That's a game changer.
Exactly. It's about aligning those economic incentives with environmental goals, and I think that's a crucial element in scaling up regenerative agriculture and making it a truly viable solution for the future.
Wow, this has been eye-opening. I had no idea regenerative agriculture was so multifaceted and far-reaching. But I have to admit, I'm also starting to wonder about the challenges involved in making this vision a reality.
You're right. It's not a simple path. There are definitely hurdles to overcome, but I think that's where part 2 of our deep dive comes in.
Okay, I'm ready to face those challenges head on. Let's take a closer look at what's standing in the way of this regenerative revolution.
Welcome back. So, in part 1, we talked about all the amazing potential of regenerative agriculture, all the climate benefits, the food security, those cutting edge innovations.
Right.
But as with any paradigm shift, there are always challenges, right? Things to consider.
That's true. Yeah, it's important to acknowledge the complexities and not get swept up in all the excitement.
Yeah.
So let's get real. What are some of the hurdles that we need to overcome to make regenerative agriculture like the norm?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is simply the scale of the change we're talking about. Regenerative agriculture requires a complete overhaul of our current agricultural systems.
Right.
And that's a monumental task, right? It means shifting not just farming practices, but also policies, markets, consumer habits. It's a lot.
It's a systemic issue then, not just about individual farmers kind of adopting new techniques.
Exactly. And speaking of farmers, let's not forget the economic realities they face. Right?
Yeah.
Transitioning to regenerative practices can be a tough sell for farmers who are already operating on tight margins and dealing with volatile markets.
Right.
So
I imagine there's a lot of pressure to prioritize those short-term profits over long-term soil health.
Yeah, absolutely. There's often an initial investment involved in transitioning to regenerative practices,
Right.
And it can take time to see those full benefits in terms of yield and profitability. Plus, the current agricultural system is often geared toward maximizing production in the short term, not necessarily building that long-term resilience.
So how do we bridge that gap? How do we incentivize more farmers to make the switch?
That's the million-dollar question,
Yeah.
and there's no easy answer.
Right.
But one promising avenue is developing stronger markets for products that are grown using regenerative methods.
Oh, yeah.
Consumers are they're becoming more and more aware of the connection between their food choices and the environment. So there's a growing demand for sustainably and ethically produced goods, right?
Right. We're seeing that reflected in like the rise of farmers markets, community supported agriculture, the popularity of labels like organic and regenerative, right? People are voting with their dollars, and that's a powerful force for change.
Absolutely, and if consumers are willing to pay a premium, right, for regenerative products, that creates a financial incentive for farmers to adopt those practices. So it becomes a win-win for both, the environment and the farmer's bottom line.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But it sounds like we need those larger scale systemic changes as well, not just individual consumer choices.
You're absolutely right. This is where government policy and regulation come in. We need those supportive frameworks that incentivize regenerative agriculture,
Right.
perhaps through subsidies, tax breaks, or even carbon credits for sequestering carbon in the soil.
Carbon credits. That's an interesting idea. So farmers could potentially get paid for their contribution to mitigating climate change.
Precisely. It aligns those economic incentives with environmental goals,
Right.
which is crucial for driving that widespread adoption.
Right.
But even with the right policies in place, there are still those knowledge gaps that we need to address. We're constantly learning more and more about the complexities of regenerative agriculture and how to adapt it to different climates and soil types.
So research and education are key pieces of the puzzle.
Absolutely, we need ongoing research to deepen our understanding of the long-term effects of regenerative practices, and to develop those region-specific strategies. Right?
Okay.
And then we need effective ways to share that knowledge with farmers through workshops, training programs, accessible online resources, all that stuff.
Right. It's about empowering those farmers with the tools and the information they need to succeed in this transition.
Yeah.
But beyond the technical aspects, I imagine there are also social and cultural barriers to consider. Changing those deeply ingrained farming traditions can be a delicate process, right?
You're right. Sensitivity and understanding are paramount. We can't just impose like a one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah.
It's about working collaboratively with communities, respecting their traditional knowledge, and finding ways to integrate these regenerative principles into existing practices.
So building trust and fostering collaboration are just as important as the science.
Exactly, and let's not forget the looming challenge of climate change itself as the planet warms and weather patterns become more unpredictable. It's going to put increasing stress on our agricultural systems, regardless of the methods that are being used.
That's a sobering thought.
Yeah.
But this is where the resilience building aspects of regenerative agriculture become even more crucial. Right.
Precisely. By focusing on soil health, water conservation, and biodiversity,
Right.
regenerative practices can help to create farms that are better equipped to withstand those climate shocks like droughts, floods, and pest outbreaks. Right.
Yeah.
It's about creating systems that can adapt and thrive in the face of change.
So it's a proactive approach, not just reacting to problems as they arise.
That's the key.
Yeah.
And honestly, even if we overcome all of these hurdles, there's no guarantee of success. Agriculture, by its very nature, involves a degree of risk and an uncertainty.
I suppose that's true of any endeavor that relies on the natural world.
But that's where the power of innovation and adaptation comes in. We need to be constantly learning, experimenting, and refining our approaches. It's a journey, not a destination.
I like that perspective. It's about embracing the process and being open to those new discoveries.
Yeah.
But this all begs the question: where do we even begin? Like how do we start turning these challenges into opportunities?
That's a great question, and it's something that we'll explore in part three of our deep dive. We'll delve into those specific actions that individuals and communities can take to support this regenerative movement.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into regenerative agriculture. It's been quite a journey, right? Exploring the potential, but also the challenges.
It really has been. I think we've both learned a lot.
I know I have. But now the big question is like, where do we go from here? How do we actually make a difference?
Well, it can be easy to feel overwhelmed, but remember, every revolution starts with small steps.
Yeah,
And those steps begin with you, the listener.
that's a good point. It's empowering to know that we can all be part of the solution, even in small ways.
Yeah.
So what can our listeners do, right now to support regenerative agriculture?
One of the most powerful things you can do is vote with your wallet.
Okay.
Seek out food that's grown using regenerative practices.
Okay.
Look for labels like certified organic or regenerative organic certified.
Yeah.
These certifications ensure that farmers are adhering to strict standards, right?
Yeah.
That promote soil health and biodiversity.
Those labels can be really helpful. And even beyond labels, I think it's important to get curious and ask questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to your local farmers, visit farmers markets, and really understand like where your food is coming from.
Absolutely. The more informed you are, the more you can drive that demand for regenerative products.
Yeah.
And it's not just about buying the right foods, right? You can also support the organizations that are working to advance regenerative agriculture.
Oh, right. There are so many nonprofits and research institutions and advocacy groups doing really amazing work.
Exactly. You can volunteer, donate to their cause, or simply spread awareness about their efforts. Even
Wow.
just sharing information about regenerative agriculture with your friends and family can have a ripple effect.
Yeah, it's all about raising awareness and creating that momentum for change.
Now, if you're feeling really inspired and you have some space, right?
Yeah.
Why not start your own regenerative garden?
Ooh.
Even a small plot in your backyard or a few pots on a balcony can be a wonderful way to connect with nature and put those principles into practice, right?
Yeah, and it's incredibly rewarding to nurture the soil and grow your own food. Plus, you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Literally.
Right.
It's a tangible way to experience those benefits of regenerative agriculture firsthand. And remember, this movement, it isn't just about changing how we farm. It's about changing our entire relationship with the land and with each other.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness.
Yeah.
That we're all part of this intricate web of life.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. Share what you've learned from this deep dive with your friends, family, and community. The more we spread awareness, the faster we can create a movement for real, lasting change.
It's about shifting from a culture of extraction
Right.
to a culture of regeneration.
Right.
Of giving back to the earth rather than just taking from it.
Beautifully put. It's about understanding that the health of the planet is directly linked to our own well-being.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective on agriculture and its potential to heal the planet.
It's been my pleasure to join you on this journey.
Then to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and empowered you to take action. Remember, the challenges are real, but the possibilities are even greater. And by embracing regenerative agriculture, we can create a more sustainable, a more just, and a more delicious future for all. Right.
And remember, it's not just about saving the planet. It's about thriving on it.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep regenerating.